Greetings and welcome to Outlaw Gamer Radio, the official podcast of OutlawGamers.com. This is the show where we live to play and play to live. I'm Brent Adams, joined by a man whose magna opus was composed in the key of badass, Mr. Lauren Baumgarten. Lauren!
Oh my God, if you guys could only see this happening.
If you could only smell what I hear.
How many episodes have you and I done together, Brent?
Well over 200
at this point,
yeah,
right?
Well over 200 now.
200 episodes. I believe that's the first time I've ever watched you do the opening. We were on a Skype call. I was watching him do that.
Yep.
That was profound, my friend.
It's like Mark Hamill said, if I knew people were watching me when I did the voice for the Joker, I'd never do it the way I do it.
That's a true story.
Sometimes you just got to go a little insane to get these things right.
Well, fortunately
Ooh,
for...
that's the new tagline for my cologne. Hang on.
Fortunately for the Outlaws, I'm actually recording this and we'll be posting it promptly on YouTube.
Yes, fortunately for all of us.
And I appreciate the opening because it is true, in fact, that my magnum opus was composed in the key of badass, as is every piece that I compose.
Yes, indeed.
There is a lot happened in gaming in the last 4 or 5 days. All of a sudden,
you are not kidding. It's one of those periods in the year where oftentimes we find ourselves searching for things to talk about, and then all of a sudden a bunch of stuff dropped in our lap, and we're going to talk about all of it. However, before we get there is one thing that I would like to say. As many of you are aware at this point, there was a very, very serious natural disaster that occurred over the weekend. There was a 7.9 magnitude earthquake in Nepal that has done some very, very serious damage. The death toll is already in the thousands and is still climbing, unfortunately. And I just wanted to say, because I know that we have some listeners in that area of the woods, and I know also, thanks to Facebook of all things, that they are okay. This is actually something I'd read about a long time ago, but the first time I'd seen it put into practice. But Facebook has this feature that in times of some sort of natural disaster or something like that, people can go onto Facebook and mark themselves as safe so that friends and family know that they are okay in light of whatever the disaster was. And two people who have been listeners for a long time did that, and so I'm very happy to hear that they are okay. I hope that their friends and family are likewise. But anyway, just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who is reeling from that unfortunate turn of events, and I hope that the people that you love are safe and doing okay, because unfortunately, there's a whole lot of people that's not the case for.
Indeed. Well, that's good news, Brent. I'm glad to hear that that's the case. I did not realize that we had Nepalese fans.
We got fans all over. What are you talking about?
We do have.
Name a country, Lauren. Name a country. Kafiristan. We got fans.
Kafiristan, Uzbekistan.
If anybody can come up with what the reference to Kafiristan is, that'll be you'll get 13 Outlaw points for that, because that was a good movie.
Oh, speaking of which,
yes.
It just occurred to me that I have a copy of Infamous Second Son. Did we ever give that away?
No, we didn't. We ought to, though.
I have a free copy on the PS4 of Infamous Second Son, and so we got to come up with something maybe for next week for us to give it away.
Who wants that game? Come on.
It's a good game. All right, Brent, let's head into the garage and start talking games, because there is a lot to talk about this week, and we're going to start off.
You ain't kidding.
The garage seems like an appropriate place for a Mad Max trailer.
Doesn't it, though?
Mad Max, the upcoming game. Who's making it? I can't remember who's making this game, but
cool people.
I don't know why I want to say Volition, but it's not Volition.
It's cool people doing cool stuff. I'll look it up right now. I can't remember either.
Mad Max put out a gameplay video. And before, I kind of want to, you and I have not talked about this at all, Brent. I know it's a game that, a property that you and I we're both very much looking forward to the film, which comes out in just a couple of weeks.
Mad Max Fury Road, gonna rock your face right through your face. It
looks so good. It looks incredible.
Avalanche Studios.
But the game could go either way. It's Avalanche Studios, yes, from the makers of Just Cause.
Just Cause, which is what we should have thought of.
A proud
This is why
pedigree.
we never did the show in Skype, because we're so distracted by each other's male beauty that, details and memory go right out the window.
That's exactly right. So we got our first gameplay video, Brent, and I want to. What did you think of the gameplay video? I'm curious to hear what you thought.
I'm disappointed, to be honest with you.
As was I, actually.
This gameplay overview trailer, we love the format, or the vid doc, format. As in the comments for last week's show, Rowan was saying, that's kind of how I've always referred to them, and I it's as good as name as any. And but the kind of that Red Dead Redemption-esque vid doc format, hey, here's gameplay, here's what you're going to be doing, here's an explanation of the game mechanics. That only really works well if you actually tell us some shit. And this video showed a lot, but it was short on tell. I didn't feel like they went into enough detail about any of the game systems that I wanted to know about, whether that was the customizations, the armor upgrade, customizations for the car, to be specific, the armor upgrades, the way that factions are going to work within the game, the way that you can interact with the denizens of the Mad Max world, and you got to do things for them to upgrade like their compounds or whatever, and then in turn they will do shit for you. Not enough detail about any of that. They say, oh, this is going to be in here and you're going to do this, and then they move on to something else, and I need more.
I agree, and it was on top of that. What they did show, Brent, I wasn't overly impressed with. I mean, I read an article.
It just seemed like same old.
It did. It kind of felt like a weird combination of, I don't know. I want to say like sort of like Uncharted and Rage, in not a good way. I mean, it kind of.
Yeah,
the world felt like caveat. Rage, which is not a good thing, and the Uncharted piece of it, the graphics felt almost like Uncharted 1 or maybe Uncharted 2. And
I don't think I get that far, but all right.
I don't know. Some of the graphics when they were driving around, I thought looked really compelling. The graphics during the fighting, I didn't think were that compelling. I didn't think the animations were that compelling during the hand-to-hand combat. I read an article that compared the hand-to-hand combat. They use the term Batman-esque fighting, and I have to say that, like, I did not get that sensation at all.
I did in this. Okay, well, here's the caveat. I did in the sense that in watching this trailer, and this was the first time I'd really considered this, although maybe I knew it and forgot. But in watching this trailer, I was like, oh, they're going to do Batman fighting, because you're seeing like the little lightning bolt above the guy's head that says, hey, I'm about to attack you, Mad Max, and better get out of the way. But the fact that, I tell you what kind of keyed it off for me, that this is sort of an older Batman incarnation, or Batman fighting incarnation, is the fact that when he's got somebody up against the wall and he's wailing on them, all of the other bad guys are just hanging back, like waiting for him to finish. And I kept waiting for like somebody come like running up to like hit him with a pipe, and he just like back with an elbow and then back to hitting the guy. And I was waiting on, it was like iterate,
and it didn't happen.
Like,
it didn't happen.
Next level, and it didn't happen.
It really felt like some of those old kung fu movies where there's like 30 guys around you, but only one guy does anything to you at any one time.
Exactly right. They're like, wait until Bob gets his ass kicked, then move in.
Yeah, I mean, you're fighting one guy 30 times instead of fighting 30 guys, and that's the sensation I got. And then on top of that, and it's not on top of that, what they showed about the customization or what they showed about sort of the UI, the interaction, the menus looked super bare bones and basic, and it's not that it looked bad, but nothing about it got me excited, and nothing about it looked. The only time that I was going to say looked really good, and there were a couple moments with the car where I was like, "Wow, that looks badass!"
Yeah.
Like the way that, but it was
like that claw on the chain to like rip the tire off of another vehicle, and some of that stuff. I was pretty jazzed about.
I gotta say that was I would say maybe out of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That was a total of maybe 20 seconds of it, and so I was very underwhelmed. I mean, I of course will look forward to seeing more footage, but at the moment, I got to say I'm a little underwhelmed.
Yeah, I am too. I really want this to be awesome, and I really want it to kick ass, and I hope that I hope that there's more substance there, but I'm feeling a little bit skeptical about it right now. But as much as I love Mad Max, I really want to like this game too. So it's going to be one I'm going to be ear to the grind or ear to the pavement after it comes out, and kind of see what the hype on it is.
Now, on to something, Brent, that I couldn't be more polar opposite about. So, I said to you before we started recording that I can't wait for the show to be over so I can go watch another 13-minute video of The Witcher 3.
That's right.
And the more I watch of this game, the more excited I get. GameSpot put out a 3-part series recently. in which in the middle of the second video, they actually refer to it as sort of Red Dead Redemption in the Witcher world. What we're talking about today is an article that came, I believe, from IGN titled How The Witcher 3 Embraces Both Veterans and Newcomers. And I think, Brent, it's a really interesting article, and it's a conundrum that many series face about how do you bring in newcomers into your series when there's so many games worth of lore. And actually what The Witcher 3 looks to be doing, I think is really a step in the right direction. They've acknowledged all over the place that The Witcher 2 was not particularly inviting to newcomers to the series, that it was overly difficult. There wasn't a lot of explanation. There wasn't a lot of sort of explanation of the lore and the history. Yeah. And they've really gone so far out of their way, actually, to address it that they've almost removed the number 3 from this game. And whenever they talk about it, they talk about it and they call it The Witcher Wild Hunt. Right. They don't even refer to it as The Witcher 3, even though it's still, and if you look at the logo, they moved the 3 from the side into the middle of the logo to look like a claw mark. And it's there, but again, they don't even refer to it as Witcher 3. But there's all these other mechanics.
That's kind of like smart branding, like, well, I mean, like people like you and I, like, oh, if we're going to play the third game in a series, we got to play the first 2, and they're sort of trying to ease that transition. They're trying to like remove as many obstacles for newcomers to the series as they can. So they're like, oh, it's a 3, but just barely.
As a matter of fact, they have said that, and I absolutely believe.
Here, I thought I divined something good here, but
you did, but you're just thinking like they're brilliant minds, and no, they have absolutely said that, and they're smart, Brent, because I have played both The Witcher 1 a little bit and The Witcher 2 a little bit, and I wasn't, if you remember, planning on getting The Witcher 3 because those games did not draw me in as somebody new to the franchise.
That's before you saw The Witcher 3 : Wild Hunt in the same sentence with the words like and Red Dead Redemption.
Essentially, yes. I mean, I didn't. So if you remember, Brent, before we heard that, I said I watched this video for The Witcher 3 and I emailed it to you and I said, Brent, you got to look at this. When I watched this video, it looks exactly like the beginning of Red Dead Redemption. Yep. And so, yeah, I mean, they have changed up a lot of the mechanics, a significant number of the mechanics in a way to make them a little bit more affable, but not necessarily made the game easier or dumbed down, it looks like. And
hopefully not.
It's a very interesting article. I highly encourage people to check it out and read about what they're doing to sort of entice new players into the Witcher franchise.
The thing for me is that they talk a lot about, a lot of the thrust of this article is about trying to be all things to all people, which is a difficult thing. It's very difficult to make a game that's going to appeal to the hardcore fans of the series, but also be inviting and welcoming to people like you and I who only have minimal exposure, or people who have never played a Witcher game before. It's a difficult, and it's a tightrope walk. It's a balancing act, and I hope that they have been able to do that, because the promise of developing a game that's going to have all of those elements, that's going to allow stalwart fans of the franchise and people like me to really dive in and enjoy that game on the same level. Well, not the same level. I won't have all the context for it that they do, but can hopefully enjoy the game despite all that. I really want that to be the case. I really, really hope that they have been able to accomplish that, because the game looks so fucking good.
I really, Brent, I'm so encouraged by what I'm seeing from this game, because I get the sense that they are doing exactly what you just said. Yeah. God, there's more that I want to say, but I really want to stay away from anything that might even be a minor spoiler for people. We're just a couple of weeks away, but I am, God damn, I keep getting more and more excited. So,
all right, well, here's something you can stop getting excited about. Silent Hills.
Shit.
Guillermo del Toro, Hideo Kojima, Norman Reedus. It's gone. It's dead. It's fucking canceled. Stick a fork in it. It's raw chicken. Don't eat it though. Man, this is so disappointing.
I am very, very disappointed by this, and it's not a complete shocker, obviously.
No,
right?
In light of what's going on with Konami and Kojima right now, they're kind of having a messy breakup, I guess.
Well, and this is, so what we're linking to here is the official announcement by Konami, or the official confirmation.
Oh yeah, but the rumors all weekend were,
right.
Guillermo del Toro made some statement at a con or a film festival or something, where he's
right, and then Norman Reedus confirmed it
on Twitter, and
it's not, so it's, I mean, it's obviously not a surprise relative to that, and sort of based on what's been going on with Kojima and Konami, it's not a total surprise. But I agree. It is a bit of a shock to me, Brent, given that I can't even imagine how much money they put into the PT demo.
I don't know, but they ain't getting it because that's going too. It's not like they're going to do anything with that. That's coming down April 30th, which is later this week. So it's
I'm super bummed, man, because I love Norman Reedus. I love that they were doing a new version of this with Norman Reedus in particular. Yeah. I don't know, man. Konami's just, so did you see also in a different article they talked about today, announced that Konami pulled themselves off the New York Stock Exchange as well?
What? No.
Yes.
No, I did not see that.
They're saying that
doesn't
most
seem
of
good.
No, it doesn't. But they're saying most of their stock trades on the London and the Tokyo Stock Exchange, and that on the New York Stock Exchange they're spending about $5 million a year in fees to be on the New York Stock Exchange.
And it's just not paying off for them.
That's what they're saying. Now, amidst all of this, it certainly does not sound good.
I was going to say like that sounds bad. That sounds really bad.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the three stories are they removed Kojima from all of the media associated with Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. They cancel Silent Hills, and now they remove themselves from the New York Stock Exchange. That's not, if you're looking at like a trended graph. Yeah, that doesn't. I don't think that's going in the right direction, man.
It's heading from up here to way down here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'm super bummed about Silent Hills. I hope that. I hope there's another Silent Hills game, but honestly, with what's going on at Konami, I'd be nervous about what they're going to do with it.
I don't have the affinity for the series that you do. My excitement for this game was really more to do with the fact that I thought the collaboration of Hideo Kojima and I might have
Guillermo del Toro.
Yes, and Guillermo del Toro. I might have mispronounced Kojima-san's name there. Anyway, the collaboration between them, the idea that someone who had such fantastic sensibilities when it comes to gameplay and innovating, and someone who had such great sensibilities about storytelling and horror and so forth, and the fact that Norman Reedus was going to be involved, who I've been a fan of since Boondock Saints way back when, it just seemed like, oh, that's the right recipe. It's like something like you read the ingredient list on this recipe and you're like, I want to eat that. And then somebody says, well, you're going to eat it. You're going to eat it right the fuck up in just a couple of... Oh, never mind.
Wait, you skipped part of that discussion. As a matter of fact, I prepared you a giant plate of samples. Why don't you just taste these? And aren't they the most amazing, delicious things?
It's delicious. So they're like, well, we're glad you like that because it's all you're ever going to get, kid.
And then they come out from the kitchen an hour later and go, ooh, sir, I didn't know at the time, but we ran out of those.
What it's like is like up on the placard, up on the board, like showing, like what they've got, like just this hand sort of snakes out from around behind the sign and takes the words Hideo Kojima away, and you're like, wait, what?
That's exactly
what's going
right.
on? And then, like over on the other side, like Guillermo del Toro, like his name disappears. You're like, what's happening here?
Wait, I already ordered that.
And then Norman Reedus walks by and it's like, oh yeah, shit's gone.
Actually, now that I kind of said that, I'm surprised they hadn't already put up pre-orders for this game.
I'm surprised as well, but I guess it's probably just as well if they didn't. But I mean, honestly, the fact that they announced the game and didn't the same day offer pre-orders for it, let's face it, that is a rare thing in this day and age.
Which meant it probably was never a real game.
Oh, good point.
All right, Brent, let's move on to the final thing in the garage. Let me try that again. All right, Brent, let's move into the final thing in the garage, and that is, and we knew this was coming over the weekend, a new trailer came out.
Yes, indeed.
For the upcoming Batman Arkham Knight. And not just a new trailer, Brent.
No, not just that.
But some gameplay details and character details.
Yeah, and actually pretty big ones considering. As opposed to being relegated only to DLC, we found out that Nightwing, Robin, and Catwoman are going to be in the game to some capacity, and that you're going to be able to play as them. Kinda. What we've gotten is actually, I would say that the media coverage on this has been somewhat conflicting, but
or malinformed.
Either way you want to look at it. But the fact is, we are hearing a couple of different versions of this. I think that the simplest version and what is probably true and accurate is that you are going to have fight scenes in Batman Arkham Knight in which Batman is fighting bad dudes and maybe bad ladies as well. I don't know. Alongside Nightwing, Robin, Catwoman, and that during the fight, you can switch from playing as Batman to playing as one of those other characters. And we presume that there is some really super cool reason you'd want to do that, because outside of playing as Catwoman, I could give a fuck about playing as Nightwing or Robin when I could be playing as fucking Batman. But that's just me. But the point is that this game is about democracy. And if you don't want to play as Batman as bad as you want to play as Robin, this game is there for you. But here's the thing though. Some of the media outlets on this are saying it's going to be like a GTA 5 style thing where you can switch characters. And I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah.
I don't think that at any time during this game you can, like plop out of Batman's body and go over and plop into Catwoman's body, although I really like the sound of that. And then
on the other side of the city.
On the other side of the city and play some angle of the story from her perspective. I mean, certainly I'm not seeing any details from official sources saying that. If that's the case, I'm all for it. But I don't want people to get their hopes up unnecessarily, because based on what we're reading, it really doesn't sound like that's what's going on. It looks like it's relegated to fight scenes, but it's one of those things that I've not yet been able to find an official thing from Rocksteady that really explains exactly what this is. And the trailer certainly does not make it seem like it's going to be a GTA 5 style body swap thing.
Yeah, I agree, Brent. There's not one of the outlets has actually linked to a press release or printed a press release that I've seen that specifies that. And so I agree that the sort of painting a picture of it as GTA style is in my opinion, at least premature, if not entirely misleading.
Because it would give you an expectation for a kind of gameplay that might not be there.
Right, that you could like go to another part of the city as somebody else.
Which
now,
would be awesome.
From what I saw, so so what they said was, and this is why I don't understand how these media outlets confuse this, but they said that Rocksteady has said that it's being called dual play mode, we have no idea really what that means. My feeling is, so it would intimate that it's a separate mode. Yeah. So is it something you choose, but the way to play through it? Could you play through all of the story in co-op? Maybe we don't know. Maybe it's something you unlock in New Game Plus. There were some scenes that were shown in the trailer where you're, of course they tell you that you can switch back and forth in the press release, but in the trailer we see some scenes where they're working together, where Batman, for example, takes, I can't remember, I think it was Robin, I think it might have been Nightwing, I can't remember, takes Robin by... yes, I'm going to say this. Takes Robin
Let me
by
take
his
notes on this. Go ahead. He does what with Robin?
He takes Robin by his pole. And
I'm just going to go ahead and call child services right now.
And there's another scene in which they show Robin's has one of the criminals. He's behind him. He's got him like in a half Nelson or a full Nelson. And Batman jumps down from a gargoyle that's above him and lands a blow on the person that Robin is holding. Yep. And so it's hard to tell if this is just you swapping between characters in a fight, or if it's playing along with another person. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that either, but one thing I am sure of is that the title of this episode is Lands a Blow.
Oh, really? It's not grabbing Robin by his pole?
That's just explicit. I mean, subtlety is the art of it.
That's right. So the other things we saw, Brent, in the reveal today were the character of Azrael is in the game.
Yeah, obviously.
Which may or may not be playable.
Seems like he might be also the bad guy.
This is the first Batman in the Arkham series to receive an M rating in North America.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, we also learned that for sure today, and they talked about how they really just felt like, while they're not going overboard on gore or blood, but they felt like certain things needed to be in the story, and that if they removed them, it would completely compromise the story. And I was very glad to hear that, frankly.
I'm happy to hear it. I hope that the reason is because there's an achievement in the game called Crowbar Unlocked, in which the Joker beats Robin's bitch ass to death. But that remains to be seen.
Brent, awesome trailer. I am getting more and more excited. I probably would be just going absolutely bananas if I didn't have The Witcher to look forward to in the next 3 weeks.
Exactly what I was going to say. Is like, I'll be excited for this later. Right now, excited for The Witcher 3.
That's kind of how I feel right now. My excitement is a little bit compartmented, but some interesting stuff coming out about Batman, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more in the coming weeks.
Welcome back to the clubhouse. Everybody grab a chair, pull it up, sit in it, and then let's talk about some stuff, because, man, we got some stuff to talk about. Before we talk about it, though, we have a poll from last week, and Lauren's going to talk about that. Lauren, what are our poll results?
That's right, Brent. We talked last week about the value of cinematic game trailers.
The value is
on the heels. I think the audience might disagree with you, Brent, but this came on the heels of the Star Wars Battlefront reveal trailer, which was a cinematic trailer that was very enticing, but cinematic
in
nonetheless.
engine, though. Don't forget about that. In engine.
Yes. So Brent put up a poll and he asked you guys a question. He said, "What's your take on cinematic game trailers?" And this is how the answers shook out. There were 4 of them to choose from. Coming in very last place was the answer, "I find them heinous and deceptive." 4% of you said that. So not too many people felt super aggressive negatively about that cinematic game trailers were a negative thing. Coming in with 10% of the vote was, "I don't pay much attention to them, really." Coming in with 17% of the vote, "I think they're great. They get me pumped to play the actual game." And I will say that the Battlefront trailer had that effect on me. And then coming in with an overwhelming 70%, Brent, was, "They're fun to watch, but I don't put much stock in them." Yeah. Which I think is probably where I would shake out. Yeah, I mean, I like watching them. I do enjoy them. I and you and I think most of our audience as informed consumers and gamers recognize that they are not representative of actual gameplay footage.
That's right.
And I like watching them, but they I don't put much stock in them, and I wait to see some actual gameplay before I get too bought into what they're trying to do. So
before you can get to where Lauren and I are with The Witcher 3, got to have gameplay. You don't get here with cinematics. You show us some gameplay, we will take our pants off and we will show you something.
And I'll tell you, now that Brent and I are on Skype, he's not kidding.
He's not.
All right, Brent. So this week's topic is an interesting one that just kind of, again, in addition to sort of a lot of the gameplay videos that have been coming out over the last week, we've had a couple of sort of bigger news topics, and this was one of them.
Yeah, there is. I will say that this is a kind of a PC-centric topic. If you're a console-only gamer, you might not really care about this that much, except for the fact that it's important, and I think that it's going to have. I think it's going to have some profound, long-lasting effects on not just the PC side of the industry, but the industry overall. And what we're talking about is mods. Mods for games are, as you're probably aware, user-generated content made by the community to supplement games. One of the most popular games for this is Skyrim. And Valve announced late last week that they are going to start a new program in which people who create mods, which traditionally have been free and just shared freely within the community, Valve has announced a program where people who distribute mods through the Steam Workshop are now going to have the option to charge for those mods and to keep a portion of the profits. Of course, Valve gets some of the money, and then also the company that made the game, in the case of Skyrim, that's Bethesda, they're going to get some of the money too. And basically, as soon as that happened, everybody lost their fucking minds. And there has just been this enormous and very contentious reaction to this. Some people very much in favor, some people very much not in favor. And there's accusations that this is going to destroy modding, that Valve, by introducing money into the equation, has ruined everything that modding stands for, that this is going to lead to shitty mods, it's going to lead to shitty business practices, exploitation, and the rape of dogs, that as well. So it's been really, really heated. There's a change.org petition that's been signed by, I think, over 100,000 people at this point. I haven't gone and looked at the petition. I've seen it reported, so I should clarify that supposedly 100,000 people have signed that at this point, asking Valve to reverse on this decision. Gabe Newell did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit that you can't see any of his responses because everybody's downvoted them so much. You got to actually go to his profile to see what he said in regards to some of these things. But the position that Gabe has taken for Valve is that we know that these things can sometimes be controversial, and we know that there can be growing pains, but we are very optimistic that this is going to, in the long run, be a really good thing for gamers, for modders, and for developers. And we'll talk about maybe some hypothetical scenarios in which this could be a good thing as we get into this discussion. But first and foremost, I'll switch over to Lauren here and just ask him for his overall reaction. So, hey, Lauren, what's your overall reaction?
Well, there's a few things here, Brent. So first of all, we're actually linking you guys to 4 separate stories / video on this topic. One from IGN, one from PC Gamer, a Jimquisition video, and one from Polygon. So there's obviously a lot here to look at. It's interesting because I like Jim Sterling, who I'm not in general a huge fan of, but I like what he has to say on this subject, and I encourage people to check out his video. It's about 9 minutes long. It's a complicated issue, Brent, and as Jim said, and I agree with that. I think that, and I also think, Brent, this isn't a PC only issue. I think console gamers should perk up their ears because there is a question of, ultimately mods are user generated content,
yes.
right? And so where does this go for games like, for example, the Golf Club or Little Big Planet?
All good points.
That offer user-generated content. And if Steam's doing it, why wouldn't they charge you for levels on Little Big Planet? So the creator who puts 50, 60, 100 hours into creating this amazing level could make $1 per sale, and that Media Molecule can take a part of that, and Microsoft can take a part of that. So I think this is very, very relevant to console gamers as well.
Why would Microsoft get a piece of that?
The same reason Valve does.
No, but I mean, Little Big Planet is not on Microsoft platforms.
Oh, I guess you're right. In that case, it would be Sony. You're right. You're 100% right. Yeah, this is a tough one, Brent, because there's a couple of things, and first of all, some of these mods, many of these mods are incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Yes.
Many of them fix fundamentally broken aspects of games.
The unofficial patch series for Skyrim, there's the unofficial Skyrim patch, the unofficial high resolution patch, unofficial Dawn Guard, Dragonborn, Hearthfire patches. I mean, like there are things fucked with the game that the community has taken upon themselves to fix, where the developer didn't fix them. And
it's hard to say. These guys put in tens, if not hundreds of hours building this stuff, right?
I mean, some of these mods have been in development for years.
I absolutely cannot begrudge those people and those teams the right to say earn money off of them.
Absolutely not. And more to the point, I mean, and it's not just it fixes a bug that existed within the game. There are mods out there that fundamentally improve the experience of the game, and I don't just mean there's a mod where you can fly an X-wing fighter around Skyrim, which I was told about just last night. But I mean, there are quest mods that add.
Really, that's a thing.
That's a thing apparently. But there are quest mods that add tens of hours of new gameplay, new storylines. There's people that have gone in and done voice acting for characters. That they've done voice acting to create localization versions of the audio stuff. I mean, there are mods out there that fundamentally improve your experience to the game, extend your ability to play the game, add all new stories and stuff like that. I mean, the range of mods can be as little as, oh, hey, there's this thing in this room that bugged me, and so I made a mod that removed it, all the way up to, we basically wrote a game that takes place within Skyrim, and it's got voice acting, and it's this really cool story, and yada, yada, yada. And we worked on, it was a team of 12 people working on it for 2 years. That's the range of mods.
It is, and again, I'm very hard pressed to say that these people who do this amazing work don't deserve any money.
Well,
so
at least they don't deserve the option. Because
they deserve to have the option,
and it's their choice. And that's the big thing, right? Is that my feeling is, if they want to give it away for free out of some sense of community, or that's just what they're doing it for. Hey, this is a hobby. I'm not looking to make money off of it. I just do it for the love. And they want to put it out there for free. I think they should be free to do that. If, on the other hand, you're a person who is hey, I'm really struggling to dedicate time to this because I got a full-time job and I really love working on this, but it takes time away from feeding myself and my family or whatever, I would like to get a little bit of compensation. I think that's totally valid too. And I have to say that I understand. Jim makes a good point in his video, which is you don't change people's thinking overnight. And the fact that people are upset about mods, which for all the time that there's been such a thing as mods, they've been free. And the fact that Valve is now saying you can charge for them, I totally understand that people are going to have just an adverse reaction to that, if nothing else, out of the, hey, it's different today, fuck that. And I totally understand that.
Well, different in a way that costs me money.
Certainly. Well, any change any change in general,
right.
people
It's just challenging.
tend to freak out about a little bit. But yes, that's very
well.
That's
And
very
certainly,
true.
gamers have watched the erosion of. I mean, DLC used to be free, and we've watched the erosion and bastardization and exploitation, whatever. I mean, it's gone from where you used to buy a game and then they would put out to support it for a while, and you get free DLC, to now like DLC is pre-ordered and sold months and months and months before the game's even done. And so this was kind of the last bastion of content, and it's content that was created by other users.
Yes.
And now
people are just
the
assuming,
company and the distribution are monetizing.
and people
it.
are just assuming, like as soon as you introduce money into this, it's going to go the way of DLC, which I personally don't agree with. Far less credible than that even is the argument that mods have to be free because mods are shared by they're shared with and by the community. And I've seen that time and time again. They're like, mods are supposed to be free. Mods are supposed to be shared by the community. And I'm like, that's like, that share is an awfully big word, because unless you're one of that very small group of people creating mods for that very large group of people to enjoy, you're not sharing jack shit. You're enjoying something that somebody else has spent potentially a lot of time making for free. And I think that you should be thankful to that person for doing that. And I don't think that you should have an expectation that that person's labor, sometimes in the hundreds of hours, should be yours for nothing. I'm running Skyrim right now with like 70 mods. And I appreciate everybody who's worked on that. Is really, really improved my gameplay experience in numerous ways. But I understand that it's basically like I am a beneficiary of their charity, and I'm very cognizant of that. And the fact that there are people out there who are like, hey, I'd like to have a little compensation for this, I got no problem with whatsoever. I bought 2 mods off the Steam Workshop just to support people who have done that. One of them, I haven't used the actual mod I bought, but I've used other mods that the author created. Now, so that I'm just to put that out there, I personally am in favor of people being given the option to ask for compensation for their work if they want to do that. However, there are complications involved in this. I think there's 2 things to talk about. Number one is the amount of compensation that the mod creator actually gets, as opposed to Valve or Bethesda.
And do we know that?
Yes, we do, and it's not good. Here's the ratio. So Valve gets 30% of everything, because it's their platform. They're doing the credit card transaction. They take 30%. So the 70% that's left gets split based on whatever the video game developer, in this case Bethesda, takes. So Bethesda is taking 45%.
So they get to the developer gets to choose their percentage, and is Bethesda taking 45% of the 70, or are they taking? Meaning they're taking
45% overall. They're taking 45%.
Right.
Valve is taking 30%, which means that the person who created the mod gets
25 cents on the dollar.
25 cents out of every dollar goes to the mod creator. And a lot of people are...
That's insane.
I agree.
They get less than both of the other 2 parties.
I do not think that's... I don't think that's a favorable ratio. I think that the starting point should be, like 33, 33, 33. I think at the starting point should be an equal split between the 3 parties, but I would much prefer to see the mod developer get slightly more than the other 2. I understand that Valve, they got to do the credit card transactions, infrastructure. I understand Valve wanting to take a 30% cut. I got no problem with that. I understand that Bethesda is like, hey, they're creating something and making money off of our product, off of our intellectual property and our own product that we put out there. I understand that they feel that that they deserve something out of it, but I don't think 40% is. I don't think they deserve 45%. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that a little more, Brent. But one of the other concerns, and I don't know if this is where you were going with the next one, is one of the other concerns I have with this, and I'm curious to get your take on it, is, and again, Jim brought this up in his video, but what happens if an official release of the game, for example, an update to the game or something breaks a mod, or a mod... for example, one mod doesn't work with another mod, but there's no real system to say, because it's sort of the Wild West. There's no system to say if you buy this mod, it won't work with that mod or whatever. And so what recourse is there for consumers to protect themselves and to get money back or to...
And there is something in place for that. So right now there's a 24-hour period. You buy the mod, you have 24 hours to test it, to use it, to make sure that it works.
So that's in place if it doesn't work with some other mod.
That's correct. So if that situation were to occur, you would be able to get a refund on that mod. Now, that does not address the point that Jim makes and that you're echoing, which is
if there's an update
to the game that breaks mods, which does happen. And the way that it works right now, admittedly, this is anecdotal for me since I wasn't actively playing Skyrim while Bethesda was actively developing it. But you look back through the update history on mods, and when a new update for Skyrim comes out, mods, hey, this mod got broken by this update, and they got to put out a new release to fix it. And so it's definitely going to create work for people. And traditionally, that work is something that they've done just to support the mod that they created. But the fact that there's now sort of a customer support aspect to it. Hey, I paid you $2.50 for, your Make Skyrim Look Better mod. This new update broke it. My $2.50 is now worthless. You owe me an update to make this work with this new version of Skyrim. Although, in theory, I would imagine that the financial incentive to put a mod out there that's going to continue to work, that's going to be built in. It's like, hey, I want to keep my mod updated because I want to keep selling. And if word gets out that my mod is broken by the new update, I don't make money. So it seems like there would be...
And people won't buy future mods.
So it seems that there would be incentive enough to do that. But yeah, you're right. It's a point.
You would think so. So I want to go back, Brent, to this idea, what you're talking about the percentages. And I'm curious, in all the stuff I've read, what I haven't heard is sort of from the modders themselves. And I haven't done a ton of research on this, but I would feel slighted with those percentages. Are the modders out there saying, we appreciate the idea of trying to compensate us for our hard work, but this is bullshit that you guys are taking 75%, 75 cents on the dollar on my work? Have you read anything like that?
I've actually been trying to, and I just need to go on the forums on Steam because there are people talking about it there, but it's so huge to dig through that I haven't dived into it yet. But I know that I know anecdotally, from reading other things, other places, that some people are really not cool with it. Some people are very up in arms, but other people who are selling their mods through the Steam Workshop are more open to the idea. But I think that we can all agree that 25% is probably not where the needle ought to be. But
that's exactly right. Now, we saw also, Brent, at the beginning of this, a story that came out, and it's actually, we have a link to it here, where one modder had to remove his mod from sale because it was actually using the assets of another modder,
which was a free mod. And that is, I think that's probably the most complicated part of all this, because so much of what goes on in the mod community is a person will do something, somebody else will come along, and they'll add on to it a little bit. They'll do a little bit of something. And sometimes it's as simple as, oh, so-and-so made this mod, and then I came along and I did a mod that just builds on that. So you have to have that mod, and then my mod just, does this other little thing with it. But sometimes it is actually, people who put out mods, they'll say, hey, this is a resource for modders. This particular thing that I've built can be used in other mods, however you want to imagine. And so that situation where if you have not created 100% of the content in your mod yourself, if you're utilizing anything else that came before, then you got to have permission. And at least one mod was removed for that very reason. And I expect that, that's just growing pain kind of thing. That's just, it's been this way and now it's different and we got to kind of get used to doing it this other way. And I think that it'll be an interesting, I think that what you'll see is that there's going to be some modders who are say, anybody is free to use these resources in my mod in their own mods as long as they give it away for free. I think you're going to see a lot of that kind of thing. And I think you'll see other people who will, in fact, they will create stuff that they will sell to modders. They'll say, hey, I've created this mod. It's got these resources and these can be utilized, like anybody who's doing animations or stuff like that. And you're welcome to buy it and use it in your own stuff and resell it. I think that, it'll go both ways. Just like me. Anyway.
So I will be interested to see, Brent. Overall, I think conceptually I'm in favor of this.
I am too.
I like the idea of modders being able to make money for their hard work. Hopefully it will make some of the cream rise to the top, although it kind of already does that anyway to a degree. Yeah. But what I'm curious to see is, Jim brought up in his video this idea of it's going to basically the whole modding community is going to turn to shit the way early access and Greenlight have, because people are out there sort of taking advantage of it and creating crap and all this stuff. And
just don't buy it. Just don't buy it.
Well, which is true, but I have to say the truth is I almost never do early access or Project Greenlight for that very reason.
I don't either. Although, and because of the fact that I haven't done early access or Greenlight, I don't know if that whole 24-hour window thing that they've got going on with the mods, where you can get a refund in 24 hours, basically no questions asked. Just like, oh, I don't, this doesn't work. I don't want it.
I don't like it. Whatever. It wasn't worth the money.
I don't know if they have that going on in early access or Greenlight, but it seems to me.
Well, not in early access, I can tell you, because the golf club was an early access game, and so I'm familiar. Yeah, I'm familiar with the process, and I have bought other early access games. I bought Flat Out's new game, which is called The Next Car Game right now, and I know that there's not an option for refund. So no, that is not in place.
It seems to me that 24-hour window where you can get a refund if the game is not up to snuff would fix most of the complaints about those two things.
Right, about this being shit. Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, Brent, or you, I assume, are in favor of this process for at least for now?
Conceptually, to steal your phrase, yes, conceptually I'm in favor of this. I am in favor of people being financially rewarded for their creativity if people think what they created is worthwhile. I'm completely in favor of that. I mean, I make a portion of my income that way, and so I'm very, very much in favor of it. I think that the concerns about I think that like the philosophic concerns that doesn't really mean much to me. I don't share the view that modding is like this haven of socialism that should forever remain untouched. I don't have a dog in that fight.
Hold on, please don't use socialism as a dirty word. First of all,
I mean that's what people are saying. I mean,
but I also don't think that
there's a comment like linked in one of these articles where the guy's like, modding was the last bastion of socialism that we had, and now it's being it's being run over. I mean, I think that's emblematic of a lot of people's view. But
that's also not true. You don't have to put your mods on Valve, and you can give them. You can give them away for free.
And that's the point that I was going to make, is that you have the option to do a pay-as-you-want thing on the Steam Workshop.
Or free,
or free if you want to. And I don't give a fuck about socialism in this context. I'm simply saying that people who are making a philosophic argument against this, there's nothing there that's convincing.
I agree with that, dude. This is the modding community isn't beholden to gamers to give them free shit.
To me, the argument here is all practical. It's all about, are gamers getting something worthwhile enough to trade money for it? Are modders getting a fair deal in whatever it is that they're trying to sell? And then, this whole, the mechanics of utilizing modded content, whether it gets broken by, an official release, whether they're taking from other, assets from other mods, those practical things about this are really where my interest lies. And I think that there's sort of two things here that I just want to touch on right at the end. Number one, you've been able to support like probably the biggest site for mods that I'm aware of, there may be bigger, is Nexus Mods. And everything on there is free. And actually there's an interesting exchange going on between the guy who created and runs Nexus Mods and Gabe Newell on that Reddit thread. There's some interesting back and forth between them. But the guy who created Nexus Mods, he's committed to it being a free thing. Like he's not, like, there's not going to be paid mods on Nexus. However, they do allow donations. And, a lot of people have put mods up there like, hey, here's my PayPal. If you like what I do, please, donate some money. And 100% of that is going to go to that mod creator. And so, at least for right now, it seems that in light of that whole 25% split thing, it seems that the donation model would be the better thing, in the sense that they're going to get 100% of it, but how many people actually take that step and donate? I mean, I haven't. I'm running Skyrim 70 mods. I have not yet taken that step and donated money to anybody. Although, thinking about the situation now, I'm sorely tempted to go back and do that, because some of those mods, I'm very, very impressed with what they've done. So that's one thing that's kind of interesting in light of all this. And then I got one more thing, but I'll come back to it. What was the thing that you were going to say?
Oh, well, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up, Brent, is that, and it's only been mentioned in passing in most of the articles that I've read, is that this may also significantly drive more developers to include robust modding tools in their product.
Well, that was what I was going to bring up, so it's perfect.
Oh.
There's
You are a brilliant man.
There's another article. There's a fourth article here from Polygon. It's written by an indie developer, and I don't recall the name of the game, so I'll pull up the article and try to remember their name as well as the name of the game that they developed. But they're talking about how excited they are about this development for the fact that they can see this potentially being something that is what saves us from shitty DLC, because the community knows the kinds of things that the community wants. I mean, nobody knows what Skyrim mods people want to play more than people who develop Skyrim mods. Okay, this article on Polygon was written by Aaron San Filippo, and he is one of the two people who worked on a game called Race the Sun, which is available on Steam. Anyway, he makes I think he makes some really interesting points from a developer standpoint about this. And he kind of got his start within the industry doing some modding stuff. So he's been on that side of it too. But he talks about as a company, what if they did their next game as a free game, but made a really, really robust system where people could create mods for their game. And they had a mod community around their game for a while, but it's waned. And he was wondering, how could we keep people energized in that? Well, if there was a marketplace involved, that might be a way. And he was talking about, what if we did our next game as a free game, gave it away, had really, really robust mod support, such that people are making mods for it, selling them, and we make our money off of our percentage of the mods that they sell. But really, we provide a platform, and the community really ends up adding value to the game. And I can see that kind of cutting both ways. I mean, I can see oh, great, well, we're just going to fucking do our job for you. It's well, maybe, but they are giving away the game for free. So the thing about this is just how this could potentially change the business model,
This is what Little Big Planet does already, Brent. I mean, except they sell the game for full price. Right. So it's kind of, now that I think about it, a little bit of bullshit. But
in hindsight, this is offensive.
But they're essentially doing that. I mean, Little Big Planet entirely sells their games now on over 6 million levels made. And they make a 5-hour campaign, and nobody walks around talking about how incredible the campaign was that Media Molecule put together. It's all about the amazing levels that the users create. Yeah. Now, they don't charge for those and make money that way, but it is essentially the basis.
What if they did, though? That's the question. What if they did?
Right. So maybe they charge $20 for the game or $15 for the game, and you're paying 99 cents a level for the levels you want to buy.
What if user-generated content replaces DLC? What if user-generated content starts outselling official DLC for games because the community is creating better, more interesting, more valuable content than the developer is?
Well, the truth is that those modders, a community, is more able to, it's very hard to turn a large ship. And so the community is much more able to be responsive to community desires. Yeah. A small team of 1 or 2 or 3 people can much more easily respond to community desires than can a company. I mean, a company of 50, 100, 200 people, they do plan out DLC ahead of time and frequently begin working on DLC weeks before the game is shipped. And once they start working on it, they may be 4, 6, 8 weeks into the development of the DLC or more before they really have a pulse on what the gamers are wanting out of the game. And so even though they, for example, were already working on the Nightwing and Robin DLC, turns out 5 weeks later that everybody's crazy for Catwoman, and God damn it, we should have developed Catwoman DLC, but at this point, for a company like Rocksteady, it's too late. But a small group of people, of 2 people, could potentially go and sort of respond to that kind of feeling.
Well, and just to, again, just to sort of take the philosophy out of it for a second. I mean, we've all played games that have had bugs and been broken and so forth. What's bad about somebody from the community saying, this is driving me fucking crazy, I'm going to fix it? Go in, find the code, make a correction that fixes the game for everybody. Everybody benefits from that. Everybody's game experience is better. God, if we could have only had that during the Batman Arkham Origins days.
Well, so that's an interesting
conundrum. They can make some money on it. Now, and I understand there's a flip side to that, which is, well, isn't it the fucking developer's job to program the game right the first time? But again, just from the practicality standpoint, if the game gets fixed so that everybody can play it, and the person who put the effort in gets some financial compensation, why not?
Yeah, that's a slippery slope or kind of a rabbit hole, man. I mean, that's that idea that it's one thing if you're creating additional content, and it's another thing if you're like totally, say, overhauling the UI or giving an HD texture pack. But if I have to pay 99 cents to get somebody else to fix a game that you broke, and like you were alluding to Batman Arkham Origins, that while it may be worth my 99 cents just to get it fucking fixed, there's something like sort of fundamentally wrong with that in my mind. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I paid my 60. This game should fucking work.
Right, fix the damn game-breaking bug that obviously one guy in Nowhere Land can fix in 20 minutes.
I understand that, and I'm not going to argue against that. I felt that way about games. We've talked about it. But at the same time, there's that part of me that wishes sometimes there was that escape hatch. It's just like,
right, you'll pay. Fuck it, I'll pay the 99 cents and just be done with it.
Exactly, and like the company, and I can't remember who it was now. I guess it was like WB Montreal that did Arkham Origins. I mean, they flat out said, we're not going to fix everything that's wrong with this game. We're not going to. It's like, well, then fine, get out of the fucking way and let somebody else do it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's an interesting topic.
It is. It's a very
Brent, I think it's time to turn it over to the listeners. There's a lot of angles to this, and I'm really curious. I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this show that have a take on this, on whether or not you think. Let us know if you think that it's reasonable to charge for mods. And I'm curious, if you're a console player, you don't play the PC, and you feel disconnected from this, think of it in terms of the console. And what would you think if, for example, levels on Little Big Planet, if they were charging, say, 99 cents a level, and Media Molecule and Sony were taking a piece of that, how would you feel about that? Separate from your political leanings and your opposition or support of socialism, what do you think about this idea, sort of philosophically? So let us know your thoughts on this subject and anything else socialist related.
Okay, everybody, those chairs that you pulled up earlier, kick them the hell over and get on the bikes and hit the road, because let's talk about some games that we've been playing this week. We're going to go first to Lauren, who is going to talk a little bit more about Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishment. I hope more than you talked about last week, because I'm very anxious to hear about this game.
I kind of wish I had reversed the order of the games I've been playing this week, because that level of enthusiasm... Yes. I want to throw at Grand Theft Auto 5, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Right. But, yes, Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishment. So, I will talk about this a little more, Brent, although I'm not sure if it's going to be good news for you. So,
you hear,
at this point, I have played...
That's the sound of my eyes beginning to well up with tears.
Yeah, well, you already got this game for free, did
I just
you
haven't
not?
played it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's certainly, of course, it's worth your time. It's interesting. I cannot. So I finished the first case in the game. There's 6 total cases in the game. I cannot decide if I'm going to keep playing it or not, to be honest with you. So
not what I wanted to hear.
The issue with this game is, so they do some very interesting things. There's multiple different aspects to solving the case. So you have to talk to people and interview them. You have to examine clues at a scene. You have to sort of kind of travel all over the city to different locations and interrogate prisoners. You have to, there's a sort of, I don't know, I kind of describe them like thought bubbles a little bit, where you have to make decisions about whether or not you think that, whatever piece of information you just uncovered incriminates somebody or absolves them, or could have happened accidentally or not. And then ultimately you have to accuse somebody. And every time I do it, I feel the absolute need
in the library.
No.
With the candlestick.
For me, it's every time I do it, I feel the incessant need to vocally out loud scream "J'accuse" every time I do it. I don't know why. So there are multiple mechanics here. And it's very interesting. The acting is very good. It graphically is interesting. The UI is very, very good for what it is. The issue I have with the game at this point is I don't feel like I'm truly investigating it in the context of, and this is the classic sort of telltale sign of this, and it drives me nuts in games, is that it seems to make no difference in what order I ask questions. Meaning they don't close off. And so, and it kind of feels that way with everything in the game. Like the game forces
there's
you.
no way to fail.
Right. And if you fail, it sort of restarts you right there immediately over. And so the game like forces you to find all the clues in a given area. And until you find all the clues in that area, you're not going to be able to progress to the next thing. With some exception, and the exception, I can't remember, Brent. Did I describe the ring thing that happened to me last week? So. With the engraving inside the ring?
I don't think so. No. Listen, you might have described it, and I might have just not been listening to you. So
it's
for
possible.
my benefit, go ahead again.
So this is a minor spoiler in the first case. So when I say that you can't continue on without finding everything in the room, it's sort of not true in the sense that I can leave the area, but nothing else will open up. And so you're left. So I was, one of the things I had to do was like, I had to go look at this guy who'd been arrested. His belongings were in the evidence room. I go into the evidence room. They're sitting in a drawer. It's very simple. There's like 3 things there. I look at those 3 things. One of them is a ring. I pick up the ring and I can see an engraving inside the ring that says, my friend forever from Rowan or whatever it was. And now, sorry, Rowan, I'm using your name.
Not that Rowan, not Outlaw Gamer Rowan, different person.
So I saw this on the inside of the ring and I read the inscription and in my mind I went, aha, that says, from, J.R. Rowan or something. And so, J.R.R. I had seen those initials before.
Yeah.
And so I made a connection.
Lord of the Rings books. Keep talking.
So I leave this area. I spend the next 20 minutes going back and forth to every location I have been because I can't find the thing that will trigger me being able to move forward in the story. Right? So I'm going back and forth, and I know there's one little detail that I've missed somewhere that's keeping me from going to the next objective. And it's driving me insane, and I have no idea what it is. I'm going all over town, loading screen from here to there.
Seems clunky.
Finally, I decide to look it up on the internet. And I look it up on the internet, and it says you have to actually click on the inscription. So it wasn't good enough that... Wait, it gets better. It wasn't good enough that I read the inscription myself. Just wait. So you're going to freak out.
Hold on, let's sit down.
So... It wasn't good enough that I just read the inscription, but I had to tell the game that Sherlock Holmes had read the inscription, right? By clicking on it. So, Brent, I did this. So I go back. I'm like, this is bullshit. I go back. I pick up the ring, and I click on. I turn it and manipulate it just so the cursor is over it, and the cursor highlights green. And I go, okay. So I had to click on it, and I click on it, and then I leave, and I go try and do the thing I'm supposed to do, and I can't do it. And I'm like, you're shitting me. And I have not opened up my new objective. And if you're bored by this story, Brent, I'm trying to take you on the emotional journey that I experienced because it was
right there with you. I am riveted by your dissatisfaction.
It was like 30 minutes. And so I go back out and I'm doing this over and over again. I'm going from place to place. I'm like, all right, that must not have been the only thing I missed. There must have been something else. Another 15 minutes, can't figure it out. I go back to the internet and I read it more carefully. And it says that you have to, so the inscription reads, your friend forever, J.R.R. Rowling or whatever. And
so now it's the Harry Potter author. I knew it.
I'm just making shit up. That was, so you have to actually, that sentence is actually, when you look at it with the cursor over it, is broken into 3 parts. So you have to highlight and click on your friend, then you have to highlight and click on the word forever, and then you have to highlight and click on the person's name to indicate to the game that Sherlock Holmes has read the entire inscription. Jesus. That's right. Now, that did not happen frequently, Brent. That was the only like instance of that absolute ridiculousness in the case. But it was also the only time in the entire case that I felt like I wasn't sort of being handheld. Like, I just ask all the questions. Just look at every single thing on the guy's body and you'll recognize it. Just click on every clue in there. And there's like a highlight vision that, like Batman's detective vision almost, that highlights the clues.
That's the struggle with these games is, you and I talked about this with LA Noire, is finding that balance between no way to fail, just hold on to our hands and we're going to lead you through this. And it's so fucked that you
actually fail the case.
That you cannot win. That's the thing. Like the whole, I mean, gameplay in general is like this. Like, the whole point of gameplay in general is making you feel as though you can competently do something that you cannot do. You know, I am no good whatsoever in, with like submachine guns in close quarters combat situations, right? But video games make me feel as though I'm adequate at that. Like, I'm no good with like a two-handed sword beating trolls over the head, but video games make me feel as though I can. Finding that groove where a video game can make you feel as though you are actually solving a mystery yourself by giving you just enough to keep you moving in the right direction. I have to imagine that it's not easy to do, or people would be doing it well. And
it's interesting when you describe it that way, Brent, because I would say, after hearing you describe it that way, that in a game like this, in a detective video game, it's actually a fundamentally different paradigm. Because in the case of the detective game, I have to wonder, is the way it's to make, the way it is in a shooter to make you feel like you're good at shooting a gun, in a detective thing like this, aren't you actually solving it? Aren't you intellectually doing the same things you would do in the real world? And therefore, shouldn't they be trying to actually have you solve it?
Maybe. But I mean, that's the thing. It depends on you as a person. It depends on, are you a critical thinker? Do you notice details? I mean, everybody's coming into this with, their own, with their own apparatus, their mind. And,
of course,
and everybody looks at situations differently. So, like, things that are going to be obvious to say me, you might see and have a completely different context for, because of, whatever cultural differences, upbringing, you see a mason jar and you think apple butter, and I see a mason jar and I think moonshiners. This guy's a moonshiner. I got to look into that connection, whatever. So that's the thing. It's a really difficult, it's difficult to, to kind of, to just compensate for the disparity in how people might come to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a challenging genre,
but
for sure.
That's the thing. I so want somebody to get this right. I so want to play a game like this where I go through the game and I really feel like I fucking solved that murder, because I find that so rewarding. And there were moments in LA Noire where I got close to that, where I kind of thought, oh man, this is really cool. And then there's other moments in LA Noire where it's like, oh no, like all I'm doing is just like clicking on this and this and this and this and this, and then the game tells me what to do next.
Yeah, and I can't decide, Brent, like, if I feel like it's worth playing a second case to see if it gets any better. I'd be curious to hear if anybody in the audience has actually played this game to completion.
This thing on iPad?
If they, I don't know.
See. I'm sorry, keep going.
I don't know that it's not going to change your experience, really. But,
I was just thinking I could play this while you're talking about it. And
it's I'm not sure if I'll play another one, Brent, and that also may be part and parcel to getting back into GTA and then The Witcher coming in just a few weeks. But unfortunately, I can't tell you right now that it's an amazing game. It feels like it's a little too handholdy for my life.
Is there like a difficulty setting that you could adjust that would change that?
Not that I've seen. They give you, so for example, every once in a while they have different puzzles. You arm wrestle a guy as something you never had done before in the game. It's a totally different mechanic, and they give you an option right there on screen to just outright skip it.
That's interesting.
And if you do it, it's how you gain information. So you can't progress without winning, but it's very challenging in a very different way. And so they give you the option to literally just say skip, and they'll just give you the information. But I haven't seen any other sort of difficulty adjusters in the game.
Well, a mixed bag then, to be sure. For my own part, it's more Skyrim for me. I have
Skyrim.
Nothing but Skyrim. I have sworn off at this point basically all side quests People keep coming to me.
You got to play it that way. You got to play it that way.
This is how badass I am, right? I'm getting couriers from cities that I have not yet visited, and they're like, "Hey, come be my Thane, and come to my city and do stuff for me, and I'll make you a Thane, and like I'll give you property and money and all, you know, and sexual favors and all the stuff that your heart could desire. Just come to my city." And I'm like, no. Because I have one mission and one mission only, and that is to eradicate the son of a bitch named Alduin. And I think I'm closing in on actually doing that. At this point, minor spoiler warning. At this point, I have acquired the Elder Scroll that I need in order to travel back in time, presumably, is what's going to happen. That's what the game's leading me to believe. But I've got the Elder Scroll, and supposedly I'm going to go take this somewhere. I'm going to read the Elder Scroll. I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to stop the catastrophe from ever occurring, or some such like that. So, so I think. So at least right now, it feels as though I'm kind of moving into the final bit of business. But obviously, there's lots of twists and turns. I've played this game for 60 hours at this point. Actually, a little more. I think I'm maybe like 62. But the point is that I am ready to be done with the main story. I've got no problem at all just tooling around in this game, doing fun stuff. But I really would like to get through the main story at this point so that I can have some sense of closure and then move on to Alien Isolation before The Witcher 3 comes out.
I love that you are so into Skyrim. I absolutely love it.
I'm having so much fun.
Brent, for the first time in the history of this show, I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, I actually have real live breaking news.
Oh, wait, really? Oh, please.
Yes, real live breaking news. So I don't know what it was, but we always have the Outlaw Gamer Society website up while we're doing the podcast, and I noticed a fresh post there entitled "Valve has removed paid mods functionality from Steam Workshop."
Well, how about that?
Huh?
So basically, Valve completely fucked you and I, completely invalidated the entire discussion we were having today. Thanks, Valve. You sons of bitches.
I think it still is a discussion worth having, and people can check it out. I think we'll add this link to the fray and let people make comments as they see fit. It is interesting. They did it with the blessing of Bethesda, and it says that I think one of the things early in the article says there's a quote here from Valve employee Alden Kroll that says, quote, "We've done this because done this meaning removed the paid functionality. We've done this because it's clear we didn't understand exactly what we were doing." Which I think is awesome. We haven't read any more of it, so we're not going to read it now, but go ahead and check it out. Throw that into the conversation and let us know what you think. Breaking news, Brent.
I'm so glad that you did that, because had you not done that, we would have released this episode and everybody would have been like, "Hey, they stopped doing that like two hours before you released this show." And we're like, that's why we didn't talk about it. So we seem much, much more awesome this way, where we would have seemed very, very lame the other way. So good work, Lauren.
This is how connected we are. This is how close to the pulse of gaming we are. We are up to the minute coverage.
And also, I was going to say, mostly this is about our audience being really badass.
Actually, that's true.
And us just having the good foresight to listen to what they're saying.
That's exactly right.
Mostly
all right.
that.
To get back to the road, Brent, I did have one more game this week, and that is GTA 5. I fired the game up. I haven't played it since moving back to the United States. I haven't actually played it
PS4,
since,
right? PS4?
PS4 version.
Okay.
My buddy Aaron picked up the PC version. He asked me if it was worth the money. I told him it was one of the better games ever made. He picked it up, and he's been going nuts for the game. And so it has inspired me to pick up GTA 5. And I called him about 2 hours after what was I doing? I was driving Franklin around doing stupid paparazzi missions.
Nice.
Which are super annoying, but totally entertaining.
I've done those.
And I called Aaron up and I was like, "So tell me again why I play any other video game ever made other than this video game, because it is so damn good."
I'll tell you why, because they don't have horses in that video game.
They don't, and God damn it if they announce a Red Dead 2.
But a mod
for GTA 5
might just add horses.
It might.
See, I want the PC version because I watched that mod of the guy who was dropping whales all over Los Santos, crushing cars and people, causing havoc and destruction. And I said, well, there you go. I got to have the PC version now because the PS4 version, whales aren't falling out of the sky in that version, Lauren. And that is exactly the problem with that game.
I refuse to watch any of that stuff because I cannot buy the game for a third time. I can't do it.
You say that, Lauren, but you can. You totally can.
I'll buy it when it gets down cheaper. But
yeah.
So I fired this thing up. I played like 3 hours of it. It is such a brilliant freaking game. I'm replaying. I'm still catching up to where I was on the PS3 version, I believe. Oh no, actually, maybe I'm not. But I just love every character in this game. I mean, I cannot believe how good this game is and how robust and big and how much there is to do. And I can't even imagine, I'm freaking out at the prospect of The Witcher being a similarly styled game that was created a few years down the road.
Yeah.
And how they may have iterated on it. And Brent, I'm hoping against hope that they announce Red Dead 2 at E3 this year.
Me too. Listen, I'll just settle for them announcing Red Dead for PC at E3 this year. I'll take that, even over anything. But God, I want Red Dead 2 on PC. Damn you guys.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it's brilliant. I don't really have much else to say about GTA 5. I still have not checked out the online, the heist, any of that stuff.
Yeah. We ought to play that. That's pretty fun.
But the game is just incredible. So, and with that, Brent, I think we have finally, at long last, this is a good long episode for folks.
That's right.
Reached the end of the episode.
That might be
so
the episode title, Good and Long.
As usual, we will ask for all of our listeners out there, all of the Outlaws, to chime in and let us know your thoughts on all the subjects we touched on today, whether it's GTA 5, Skyrim, Sherlock Holmes, Crime and Punishment, Valve and their wanton money-mongering tactic of charging for mods and then apparently reversing.
The sudden reversal.
That's right. Or what we talked about while we were hanging out in the garage, the new trailer for Batman and the announcement of some new mechanics in that game, including character switching, the cancellation of Silent Hills, how The Witcher 3 is embracing both veterans and newcomers, and of course the first trailer we talked about, the Mad Max gameplay. Let us know what your thoughts are on those subjects and anything else related to the world of video games and video game entertainment. As usual, he is Brent Adams. I am Lauren Baumgarten. And remember, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing.